Welcome to Level Up with Winnie Sun.
Hello, friends, and thank you so much for tuning in today. Happy Monday. Welcome back to the week, right? If you're joining us on replay, a big hello to my friends on replay. And of course, if you're joining us from Modern Mom, welcome. It's great to have you here as well. Let's start with the market. Let you know how things close. Now, the Dow closed up 82 points. Certainly a big difference from last week. Remember, last Monday, the market was down big. At one point, it was down like 900 points. NASDAQ closed up 3. S&P up 10. Now, not huge on the NASDAQ and the S&P, but certainly a positive day to start the week. We'll take whatever we can get at these days. As you know, people are really concerned about the Delta variant right now with the pandemic not behind us yet, my friends. And so we're seeing a lot of pressure on the financial markets, even as this week is a big week for earnings. Now, you may have seen Tesla actually just reported earnings right after the close here. We're expecting Google, Microsoft, Apple, Visa, a lot of the big companies to be reporting earnings this week. Overall, a lot of analysts are pretty bullish on how those earnings will look. However, that being said, until the pandemic is truly behind us, we're going to continue to see some volatility, some more uncertainty showing out in the markets. And for a lot of analysts, they're saying that this is probably going to be temporary. However, as you know, living through temporary doesn't always feel so great. Now, on other matters, you may have seen on Yahoo Finance today, consumers are reporting to feel a lot more uneasy once again, with the 7-day moving average of pandemic cases increasing by over 58% to over 28,000 Americans during the week ending July 16th. This is unfortunately the highest case of COVID since mid-May. So we're certainly not going in the opposite direction, the direction that we were hoping. So the positive COVID rate has surpassed 5% for the first time, and since a very long time, for quite a few months now. So many people are are concerned right now. Many people are thinking of what are they going to do for the next few months, next year? Are things going to get back to normal? As we know, back to school is just around the corner too. So admissions in hospitals have been surging. In fact, Dr. Anthony Fauci said yesterday that federal authorities are actively considering recommending that vaccinated people across the United States start to wear masks again. And we're also seeing more news that there could be more of a mask mandate on the federal level. As you know, here in California, where I'm at, they're already requiring masks to be worn indoors, or they're asking them to be worn indoors. But on other news, and this is really interesting because you might say, well, how far is this going to go? Is it just going to be in California, a couple different cities, a couple different states? Well, here's something that's interesting. California is going to require their state employees and some healthcare workers to have to show proof of vaccination against COVID-19 or face mandatory weekly testing. In fact, Governor Newsom has said that they are looking at projections. There have been significant increases in hospitalizations, and that we're going through sort of a scary path right now. And they're saying, something needs to change. Also happening in New York City, this was also announced, a similar guidance for municipal employees as well as healthcare workers. You're going to have to show proof of vaccination by September 13th. That in California, it's going to be August, and in New York, that'll be September 13th. They'll either have to take the coronavirus test every single week, or be able to show proof of vaccination. So, and employees are going to have to start wearing masks August 2nd. It's really interesting because as we're going back to school, right? In just a few weeks here, and in some areas, some markets, it's actually this week, kids are already back in school. College students as well. What that's going to look like. Maybe the government can't say, well, everybody needs to be vaccinated, but certainly schools and private companies can make it more challenging if you're not vaccinated. Now, on other matters, and this is maybe some good news for those of you who are looking to purchase a new home. Is the housing market cooling? Well, recently we've been seeing that this, in fact, is the case. Recently, sales actually, the single family homes fell for the first time just recently by a little over 6%. So if you're looking for a new home, that actually might be some good information, because we know prices through the pandemic have increased so much. So you must have seen this in your neighborhood. Many cities are reporting significant increases. In fact, I've talked to quite a few young people who said, they feel like they've paid over 35% more for the home that they're in currently, and just feeling a little buyer's remorse of they're a little worried that may have overpaid. So let me ask you, if you are in the markets for a house, or maybe you've already just recently purchased a house, what are your thoughts on this? Now, the good news though is that there's still some good news, and the good news is that refinancing rates are still very much very low. In fact, we've seen a little bit of a drop in rates just in the last couple of weeks. So if you're looking to refinance, there's still some good news. All right, so today is going to be special because we've been thinking about doing this for a little bit, but I think what we're going to do is start the week off with you. And so this is really fun because on Mondays, we're going to try and go ahead and answer some of your questions. And a lot of them have been coming in the last few weeks. So let's go ahead and start and see what we've got. All right, great question. So, Winnie, I know you've been talking about making certain financial decisions since this mid-year. Can you talk about those again? Okay, great question. And yes, usually about where we are right now, right in the middle, smack in the middle of the year, right around summertime, this is actually a great time to reassess your financial plan. Take a look at where your budget is. Most important, many of us actually know how much we've earned between January and now. So if you take a look at your income, you can sort of project whether or not, number one, you might be able to qualify for the Roth IRA, or you would qualify obviously for the traditional IRA, but would you qualify for the Roth IRA if you have income? Also, if you need to make some changes to your tax return, right? Maybe you made certain allotments, maybe in your 401k as well. Maybe you made a contribution of 4%. This might be a good chance for you maybe to up that contribution if you can, or if you feel like you're a little stressed and you're a little behind on bills, maybe you got to decrease that, right? To make sure you have funding available. The other thing that makes a lot of sense right now is to make a meeting with your financial advisor as well as your accountant if you have one. Now, the reason that is because it helps you plan ahead of time. So often clients will come to us maybe like at the end of the year, like October, November, sometimes even December, saying they want to make certain financial decisions. And oftentimes the deadline is actually December 31st. So the sooner you can get talking with your advisors right now, the better. Plus, during the summer, typically it's a little bit slightly slower time for accountants in particular, because they're in that zone where it's between tax filing deadlines and estimated taxes and the end of the year planning, as well as financial advisors, because financial advisors tend to be busy all year long, but especially the beginning of the year and the end of the year, when we're talking about contributions, we're talking about deductions, we're talking about gifting and all those things. So this is a good time. So I would suggest you do that. It is actually just ask for a complimentary consultation, set up a call, set up a Zoom, and get your questions answered. That's a good question. I'm really glad you asked that for us. I think a lot of people will benefit if they do that. The other thing is, remember what Warren Buffett said. Warren Buffett has once said that, it's wise for investors to be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. So this is kind of a contrarian view on the stock market. So you might be wondering how you should better position yourself. And the best answer to that is to take the time to meet with an advisor to figure out your risk tolerance, your time horizon, set up your goals, make sure you're on track to meeting those important financial goals, especially in a year like this where we've got so many things to be worried about already. Sometimes we just let ourselves become a lower priority, and you don't want that to happen. It's really important to get your finances in order. All right. Thank you so much. Great question. Let's see what we've got. And thank you so much. I see so many of you joining us today. Question number 2. Let's see what we have. All right, emergency fund or Roth IRA. I can't decide which way should I go. I really want to invest. Okay, great question. Actually, I've been hearing a lot of this myself as well. A lot of people say like emergency fund, Roth IRA. I feel like I'm behind because I need to make up some time, so I want to invest. Well, it depends on your situation depends on a lot of factors. I would certainly suggest, of course, to speak with a financial advisor one-on-one for this. But here's what I would say. Don't feel like you necessarily have to do one or the other. I mean, an emergency fund, we know, is so important. This pandemic has shown us just how important that is, and how it's really great to have at least a 6-month living expenses socked away in emergency fund for yourself. Now, the best way to calculate that is actually you can go to sungroupwp.com. You can download the budget worksheet. That will help you quantify how much you spend per month. Then simply take that number, multiply it by 6. I also recommend redoing that calculation, like, maybe once or twice a year, maybe even once a quarter if you're just starting off. But the Roth IRA is an account. The Roth IRA is a way for you to, on a tax shelter basis, save for retirement assets. However, one of the benefits of the Roth IRA is if you make after-tax contributions into the Roth, which is the only kind of contributions you can make into a Roth, then that portion which you contributed to, you can take out for any reason at any time, without penalties and taxes. So the advantage of that is it could, if you're limited on budget, serve as both. If you have a pretty stable job and you're feeling confident that your income will continue, you might want to look at the Roth IRA as a way to save for your future, as well as serving as an emergency fund, considering that probably you won't have to touch your Roth IRA and you're able to hold that and let it grow to be tax-free for future retirement, which is really at age 59 and a half. So something to consider. Now, if it's different, let's say you have people that depend on you. Maybe you have a family, you have kids, maybe you have elderly parents that are financially dependent on you. Then your scenario might be different. So you might want to have more money in your emergency fund that's fully liquid, right? That's not in an account like the Roth IRA. Maybe, although the Roth IRA, the contributions are liquid, you might want to have even more liquidity, right? So you could keep it in a checking account or a savings account. But whichever direction you go, I think it makes sense to get some really expert advice to make sure you're going in the right direction for yourself and not just assuming, well, these terms are so generic, I know what I need to do, I'm just going to do it. Because there's going to be ideas and strategies in place that you may not have thought of. So I would recommend you considering to make that first step and getting yourself in order. This summer is a great time to do it, especially if you can carve out an afternoon or a morning and try and set up the call. I think it'll be really worth your time. So thank you so much for asking that question. All right, let's go to the next one. What do we have? Okay. I'm going to start looking at refinancing my house. Any best tips? Yes, I do. I have some great news for you. Well, mortgage rates have dropped to a new 5-month low. So this is giving about 14 million Americans really a reason to consider refinancing. Now, average rates on a 30-year mortgage have dropped below the 3% mark. That's a big deal as of last couple weeks. So this is a new 5-month low on refinancing rates. This is a rate that we want to see drop low. So here's my suggestion to you. When you apply for any sort of loan, whether it be a refinance of your mortgage or buying a car loan or even renting an apartment, one of the things that they're going to do is they're going to require you to provide, they're going to do a credit check on you to see if you're credit worthy, right? To see where your FICO score is. So I always recommend, if you're going to be shopping around for your mortgage, get a good sense of where your mortgage rate is. Now, a lot of credit card companies actually offer this free on their app, so you know what your score is at. If you don't, you can go to freecreditreport.com and you can request your own credit report for free once each year. And because it's a self-inquiry, when you look at your own credit score, it doesn't negatively impact your credit score. So what you want to do is have that report handy, know where you stand in terms of credit score, then shop around on your mortgage. Talk to the person who currently handles your mortgage. Talk to another bank, perhaps, that you didn't consider. Maybe it's someone that has utilized, that they've had a good experience. Like, I absolutely love my mortgage provider, my mortgage banker, if you will. His service has been above and beyond what I could even expect. So, make sure you have someone that's really good, that really cares about getting you the best rate and the best terms. And then once you decide who it is that you're going to be refinancing with, then allow them to pull your credit. The other suggestion I have for you is this: if you get a really good rate from somebody or a good quote from a company, and perhaps you would prefer to refinance somewhere else, maybe it's the bank that you're currently using, maybe it's an existing relationship, try to have that second place that you really want to have your loan at. Try to see if they'll match the rate that you were given from the previous loan company, and just see. Maybe they'll match it and you can get exactly what you want. You'll get the mortgage that you want, the rate that you want, and you still retain the relationship that you're used to and you enjoy the service for. So that's what my tip would be for you. But certainly I wouldn't wait. I think if you're even considering refinancing, I would do it sooner rather than later. So thank you so much. Great question. All right. So this question, okay. Last Monday was scary. Do you think the market is going to tank? This was such a big question last week. So many of you wrote in asking this. Well, last Monday, as you know, logged the worst day for the Dow since 2000 in 2021 this year. However, that being said, we are currently in earnings season. This week, a lot of companies are expected to report earnings. Over 100 companies are expected to report Q2 earnings. And so in short, what are we expecting? We're actually expecting overall, some companies to do better, some companies to do worse, but overall, we're thinking the numbers aren't going to be as bad as we may have expected as we're still here in the pandemic. So that's the thing is you should expect there to be continued volatility, because not all of this has to do with earnings and not all of this has to do with financial figures, but a lot of what we're seeing, the pressure in the financial markets, is coming from the pandemic. And whether things are going to get back to normal, if the economy is going to be back to normal, if we're going to be able to get back to work, get our kids back to work in a safe manner, then I think you're going to see some more optimism in the markets. But in the short term, you can certainly expect more volatility. Are we going to see other down days like we did last Monday? Well, that was pretty steep a fall, right? It closed down, I think, almost 800 points, about 780 points. Down at some point earlier that day, it was down 900 points. Now, could that happen again? I think it certainly could. So you just have to be mentally prepared. Now, if your time horizon is long, though, and you haven't, let's say, stocked away enough for retirement yet, or maybe for your child's education yet, this might be an opportunity for you to add if those investment time horizons are long. Now, that being said, once again, I do recommend that you speak with a financial professional. I think it makes a lot of sense. Make sure your portfolio is adequately diversified and you're getting good advice and you're getting smart advice, not only for today, but also into the future. So thanks so much for asking that question. I hope that was helpful. Want to say a quick hello to CrossX Fighter. Joshua, it's wonderful to see you and so glad to hear that you are doing well as well. All right, so let me ask you this. Do you have a question that you love for me to answer? A question about your business, the markets, personal finance, social media, family finances, and more? Well, don't be shy. Send your questions by visiting levelupwithwinnie.com or simply sending me a DM on whichever platform you're on now. And DM equals direct message. I'd love to hear from you. I can't wait to see what you're interested in learning more about. So I'm looking forward to getting your messages. Thank you so much, my friends, for watching, supporting our program, and please take a moment to share this show with someone that you care about. And as a reminder, you can find full episodes of Level Up with Winnie Sun on NASDAQ, Amazon Fire, and Roku. Be well, and I can't wait to see you again this week. Take care now.